A History of Southern Missouri and Northern Arkansas by William Monks, published in 1907. Outlaw Rule in Oregon and Shannon, number 47. In the fall of 1867, the counties of Oregon and Shannon were still controlled by those roving bands of outlaws who ruled the counties with an iron hand. A despotism unequaled at any stage of the war existed there. There was a public gathering in the fall of 1867 in Thomasville. Colonel Jameson, one of the leaders of these outlawed bands, rode into town at the head of about 50 men, well armed, shot 2 men's brains out, paraded the streets, and swore that any man that attempted to enforce the civil law against them would fare the same. Rode out unmolested, and there was not a single attempt made by the civil authorities to arrest one of them. In a few days, Jameson, with some of his men, rode into town, and a man by the name of Philip Arbogast, the father-in-law of Mr. Hill, one of the firm of Hill, Whitmire Mercantile Company, now doing business in West Plains, who had been a Confederate all through the war, remarked in the hearing of Jameson that the war was over, and he believed that the civil law ought to be enforced. Jameson at once dismounted, cocked his pistol, approached Arbogast, and commenced punching him with the muzzle of it until he inflicted some wounds, remarking to him that if he ever heard of him uttering a word again in favor of the civil law being enforced, that he would hunt him up and shoot his brains out. Some time previous to that occurrence, 2 men who had been discharged from the Federal Army and had once resided in Oregon County came into the county to look at their old homes. Colonel Jameson, with about 40 men, arrested them, took them to the house of the sheriff, informed the sheriff that no feds could ever reside in Oregon County, and no damn black Republicans could ever cast a vote in any election that was held in the county, that they were going to make an example of the men, that others might take warning, that they were going to take them out far enough away that their stench would not annoy good Confederates. Accordingly, they started from the house, took them about 1/2 mile, stripped them naked, shot them to pieces, returned to the sheriff's house with the clothing, which was the uniform they had worn in the service, horse and mule and saddles, which they had been riding, gave the mule to the sheriff, took the horse with them, published what they had done, and said that those men shouldn't be buried, and that if any Confederate buried them, they would share the same fate. Captain Alley, who had been a Confederate all through the war, but was an honest man and wanted to see the law enforced, informed Governor Fletcher of the condition of the county. Governor Fletcher at once appointed him an enrolling officer, ordering him to enroll and organize the county into militia companies to form a posse comitatus to aid the sheriff in enforcing the law. As soon as he received his commission, he rode into the different townships, put up his notices requesting the people to meet him for the purpose of enrolling. Jameson, with about 40 men, rode into the township where his first meeting was to be, posted another written notice on the same tree, the purport of which was that if Captain Alley, the old white-headed scoundrel, appeared on the day to carry out the orders of the governor, he would meet him and shoot his old head off his shoulders. Alley, being satisfied that he would carry out his threat, went to the place before daylight and concealed himself nearby. About 10 o'clock on the day appointed, Jameson and about 40 followers came charging in on their horses, revolvers in hand, cursing and declaring that they would like to see the old white-headed scoundrel put in an appearance so they could make an example of him, that they didn't intend to let any man enforce the law against them. As soon as they retired, Allie returned home and wrote to the governor again, stating the acts, conduct, and threats that Jameson had openly made, and that troops would have to be sent into the counties to aid him and others in organizing, so the civil law could be enforced. He asked the governor to appoint Captain Monks to command the troops which he might send. The author received a letter from the governor informing him of the condition. Also stated in the letter that while Howe County was peaceable and law-abiding, that her citizens were not safe by any means, while such a desperate band of outlaws were right at their very door, bidding defiance to the civil law, committing all manner of crimes, from murder down, and begging the author to consent to his being appointed major of state troops, that he would make an order for the author to organize the men in the county of Howell, and include Howell County in his order, declaring them to be under martial law, especially when it had been requested by Captain Alley, who had been a lifelong Confederate. The author took the matter under advisement, and as Jameson, with his band of men, had threatened time and again to raid Howell County and kill the author with other Union men, he decided to give his consent to the governor, wrote him while he reluctantly would consent to accept the appointment. He had thought that he had discharged his duty in the late war and would not be required to take part in any further military operation.